From a backdrop of seething black clouds, 5 dragon mares steered by riders of the Imperial Cavalry descend, screeching one by one to unleash a maelstrom of destruction upon the town. In a crumbling stone tower, rising amidst the flames of the burning town, a young girl with pure white hair clutches the bars of her prison window. The dragon mares swoop, tearing down the walls of the tower. She is surrounded, the monster's snarling jaws close in on her. Suddenly, an enormous winged shape descends from the sky. A dragon, long thought vanished from the surface of the earth. First appearing on the 32-bit Sega Saturn in 1995, Panzer Dragoon introduced us to a unique 360-degree panoramic battlefield. Taking control of Kyle and the Blue Dragon, players were thrust into rich 3D environments, armed with a manual gun and with lock-on homing lasers you take to the skies in your battle with the Empire. In 1996 we were graced with the sequel, Panzer Dragoon Vi. The game retained all of the basic systems from the first one, but added a special berserk attack, choosable stage routes, and the introduction of dragon levelling up. 2 years later, in 1998, we saw the release of arguably one of the greatest games on the Sega Saturn, Panzer Dragoon Saga. Turning the game into an RPG was a touch of brilliance, as it allowed the player to really explore the world of Panzer Dragoon, and to allow you to interact with the characters within the world. And so, that leads to Panzer Dragoon ORTA, a 2002 Xbox game developed by Smilebit Studio and published by Sega. Returning to its rail shooter roots, you take the role of Orta, a teenage girl who is rescued by a mysterious dragon. During her escape, she encounters a drone called Abad. Whilst tracking the drone, Orta begins to discover the truth behind her own origins and fights to free the world from the tyranny of the Empire. Enemies will attack you from all directions. The radar in the top right hand corner shows you the location of hostile opponents, indicating them with a red dot. Using the trigger buttons, flip your view 90 degrees so you can face in the direction of oncoming danger. Pressing both triggers at the same time turns your viewpoint by 180 degrees, allowing you to quickly snap behind you to target anyone trying to sneak up on you. Lucky for you, Orta is armed with a gun. This is the basic weapon that you can manually aim to attack enemies and the projectiles that they fire at you. Your main weapon is the homing laser. You use this by pressing the A button and dragging it over a selection of enemies to lock onto them. Releasing the button will unleash multiple lasers at the targeted enemies. You also have a berserk attack. This is a powerful move that unleashes a flurry of lasers at the enemy, whilst also making you invincible for the duration of the attack. There is a berserk gauge in the bottom left hand corner of the screen that fills as you attack and destroy the enemies. Another key component of combat are the glide and slide moves. This technique allows you to adjust your position in relation to your adversary. The X button controls your acceleration and the B button controls your deceleration. This is especially important when it comes to boss battles, where you will often have to fly around the opposition in order to discover where their weak spots are. There are 3 key positions which come into play: the trail position, where you can approach and attack an enemy from the rear, the flank position, where you can fly alongside the opposition, and finally the outflank position, where you'll find yourself in front of an enemy, attacking them head on.
Laos, Dino Zuigo, Ena dostoro emungus insolentia Laos, Afo porestum ena carsa, Usque agora, Ena, Vascano, Laos, Omenis, Teananki.
Something new to Panzer Dragoon ORTA is the inclusion of morph forms. This means at any time during the game you can switch your dragon to utilise the best morph form for your needs. The base wing is a good all-rounder, benefiting from the glide attack and having the ability to lock on to large numbers of enemies. I spent the majority of this game playing with this dragon. Should you find yourself needing more firepower, then you can morph into the heavy wing dragon. This is the most powerful form and boasts a strong bio-laser attack, although it has a reduction in the amount of enemies it can lock onto at any one time. Finally, there's the glide wing. This is the most agile form, which has an increased glide gauge. This comes at the cost of not having a homing laser, but instead relying on homing bullets from your gun that will automatically hit enemies that are within the target. With 10 episodes to fight your way through, there's a lot of gameplay here for you to sink your teeth into. Each episode is set in a different location and has its own identity. My favourite episode is number 4, Gigantic Fleet, where you find yourself flying through the clouds, facing off against numerous airships. You can really feel the power of your dragon as you watch the huge airships plummeting to the ground below in a blanket of fire and smoke. At the end of each episode, you are rewarded with a glorious boss battle. This is where the creativity of the developers really shine. Each boss that you confront requires a different technique or strategy to deal with. Some are fairly simple, like targeting a certain location on the enemy, whilst others require sheer will and determination to attack, whilst dodging incoming projectiles. One of the areas where this game excels is the graphics. They are bold, bright and very colourful. The details in the environments are incredible, and sometimes, particularly on my first playthrough, I would accidentally fly my dragon into an obstacle because I was too busy admiring the view to look where I was going. The berserk attack is very vibrant, and the visual effects really help you sense the true power of the dragon that you pilot. There are a large variety of enemies, all of who are beautifully crafted and help populate the world that you find yourself immersed in. One of my favourite elements from the Panzer Dragoon series of games that has carried over into Panzer Dragoon ORTA is the language they employ. The voice acting uses a made up dialect, which really helps you buy into the fact that you're exploring a new and strange world. As I read the subtitles to understand the conversations, and I look at the fantastical creatures and scenery that lays before me, I really can't help but get sucked into this magical world. Panzer Dragoon ORTA is very much more of the same, but highly polished, and it turns out that I'm okay with that. The Saturn games were a wild ride that have remained firm favourites of mine for a long time. If you have played the previous games in the series, you'll come into this knowing exactly what to expect, and will be able to pick it up and play without any issues. Anyone new to the game will soon get to grips with it in a very short time. It's accessible, intuitive and highly enjoyable. I had a great time with this game, and I know that I'll be going back to play it again soon. Overall, I would give Panzer Dragoon ORTA on the Xbox a 9 out of 10.